Hi everyone, my name is Kevin. Today I want to show you how you can both get and also use Microsoft To Do. What is Microsoft To Do? It's a task tracking app that's very powerful but also very easy to use. As full disclosure, before we jump into this, I work at Microsoft as a full-time employee. And on that topic of being an employee at Microsoft, I attribute a lot of my success at Microsoft to using a task list. Now, I know that sounds kind of silly, but anytime I go to a meeting, anytime I talk to a colleague in the hallway, anytime I get an email and there's some type of follow-up for me to work on, I add it to my task list. And so what this allows me to do, it helps me keep on top of any of the work that I need to get done, and it really makes sure that I'm productive and efficient with my time. And today I want to show you how To Do can also help you stay on top of your life and be more productive and efficient. All right, well, why don't we jump on the PC and I'll show you how to take advantage of it. To start off, I want to show you how you can get Microsoft To Do, and there are a few different ways you can get it. The first one, and probably the most direct path, is you simply navigate to todo.microsoft.com, and that'll drop you on the Microsoft To Do homepage, and then you look at the primary action here is get started. You simply click on there and then you could get started with Microsoft To Do. Another way that you can also get Microsoft To Do is navigate to the website office.com and then click on sign in. Either path that you take, you're going to need to enter your Microsoft account. If you already have one, you could go ahead and just type it in here. If you don't have a Microsoft account, don't worry, you can still get to Microsoft To Do. This text here says no account. Well, don't worry, click here to create one. It's entirely free to create a Microsoft account. It won't cost you anything at all. Now, I've already gone ahead and logged in, so I'm going to go ahead and open it up. Now, if you go directly to todo.microsoft.com and log in, it'll drop you on the main To Do interface, and we'll get to this in just a moment. If you go through office.com and log in, you'll land on the main office.com website. And right here, what you could do is to go to Microsoft To Do, you could click here. So why would you go through this path? First, just todo.microsoft.com. Well, on office.com, not only do you get Microsoft To Do as a very, very awesome task tracking app, you also get all these other productivity tools like Outlook, you get free cloud storage with OneDrive, you get Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, and the list goes on. So you get lots of great productivity tools included alongside To Do. Today's topic is To Do, so we're going to ignore all these other ones for now, and we're going to simply jump directly into Microsoft To Do. And here I am in the main interface. And what we can do is, why don't we go ahead and simply create a task. And what I'm going to do is over here on the left-hand side, I'm going to click on this one that says tasks. We'll go through what these other options are in a moment. But what I want to do is let's go ahead and just get our first task in here. So what I'm going to do is why don't we create our first task, and maybe this one is going to be welcome to Microsoft To Do. That'll be our first task. And when you enter a task in here, simply click on enter. And here we have our first task on the task list. One of the things that I can do is as soon as you complete a task, there's this round circle right here. I'm going to go ahead and click on this, and I get a nice little bell that congratulates me that I finished my first task. So congratulations, we've entered To Do and we've already finished our first task. It's actually pretty easy and fun adding tasks and completing tasks. Now what I want to do is, this is just a generic list that you could throw tasks in, but what I want to do is I want to actually create a list of tasks. Now the way to think of a list is this is a group of tasks. So maybe let's say you have a grocery shopping list, you could put them in a list. Or maybe in my case, maybe if let's say you want to start a YouTube channel, maybe I'll have a list around starting a YouTube channel. So whatever kind of a general topic is that you'll have a lot of tasks relate to, you could create a list around those. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a YouTube channel and I'm going to create a list around that. So I'll go ahead and enter that. And here you see I have a list now. And let's say that actually I meant to say start an amazing YouTube channel. We're not just going for the kind of the plain and simple. We want to make this amazing. If you want to rename your channel or your list, what you could do is simply click on the name up here, and then I could go ahead and edit it. All right, that's more like it. This will really inspire us as we're creating a YouTube channel. And what I can do then is on the right of a text, I see the ellipses here or the triple dot, and I'll click on that, and some things that I could do for a list. I could set a theme. So right now it's in kind of a cool blue. Why don't I go with a calming green instead? And so I'm going to go ahead and set this theme for my list. So there I go. I have my list in place. I've retitled the name. And now what I want to do is I want to add some tasks under this list. And so one of the things is when you're starting a YouTube channel, well, you don't want to just start a channel and not know what it's going to be about. So maybe my first task is going to be, what is the channel about? We got to figure out, hey, what's the purpose of this? A fun story for my YouTube channel, I actually started with travel videos eventually, and I finally pivoted my way over to tech and how-to videos. Part of the reason why is at Microsoft, I work on office.com. I read a lot of customer feedback, and there's a lot of computer questions, a lot of kind of assistance that people need. And so I said, hey, maybe I can make videos that help make computers and different Microsoft tools easier to use. And so that's part of the reason I landed on this channel type. Anyway, let's go ahead and add some other items. So not only do you have to decide what the channel is about, but if you're going to create a YouTube channel, you also probably need some nice lighting. Hopefully you like my lighting that you see in my video. In this case, I'm doing a screen recording video, so I need some screen recording software. I probably also need some editing software once I record all my footage. And let me throw in a camera because you probably all want to see my beautiful face. I need a camera to capture it. Just kidding there. And then I'm also going to throw in a microphone as well. This way you could hear me better. Now, one of the things, if you ever are considering setting up a YouTube channel or doing any type of recording, a good microphone makes a massive difference. If you use a built-in microphone as part of a webcam or just a built-in microphone on a laptop, it's not going to sound that good. So very critical for setting up a YouTube channel. So here I have all of my tasks on my list. And one of the things that I want to do is let me actually click into one of these tasks to show you what you can do. Right now, I just have kind of a basic task list here, but I could do a lot more with these different tasks. And this is going to show you some of the power of Microsoft To Do. So let's click on what is the channel about. When I click on this task, what you'll see is I have this pane appear on the right-hand side. And what I can do now is I can click on this star and I can tag this or mark it as important. So I could click there. What I can also do is I could click on the star over here to mark it as important or to deselect it as being important. One thing you'll see that happened is as soon as I clicked on the star, it moved it to the top of my list. So To Do is being smart about what my prioritized tasks are. If I mark it important, well, it's probably a higher priority. And to be fair, before I get a microphone, a camera, editing software, I should probably know what my channel is about. So it kind of makes sense to move this one to the top. Within this pane, what I could do is I could add sub-steps. So you could have a higher level task, and maybe that task has additional steps that you need to get done. So to figure out what my channel is about, well, maybe as a first step, I want to go through and actually brainstorm ideas. And so maybe my goal is let's brainstorm at least 20 ideas first. And then maybe as a next step, once I've brainstormed my 20 ideas, let me narrow that down to what I think are the top 3. And once I have my top 3, maybe I could pull in some friends and family, and then I could have them vote on what their favorite one is, and then I can narrow it down to my top 1, and that'll help me land on what my channel topic is. Now, as I go down here, when I mark this one as important, what's interesting is you'll see over here on the left-hand side, as soon as I mark something as important, now it also includes it on my important list. So I'll go ahead and click on here, and here you see what is the channel about has been filtered or shown on this important view. So I'm going to go back to my list. Let's click back into this task. One of the things I can also do within this pane, I could add it to my day. So let me go ahead and add this to my day. And here too, just like when I set a task to important, you also see that it added a task to my day. And so if I click on this, now I see the task here. Now what's really interesting about the My Day view is at the end of the day, any task that's in this view drops off the My Day view. So every day you have to define what your My Day tasks are. And one of the really nice things about this is when people have done research on task lists and tracking to-dos, one of the challenges is people are very ambitious about adding tasks, and your task list grows and grows and grows, and maybe you add another task here and another task there. And one of the challenges is over time it becomes somewhat overwhelming because you have so many tasks on your task list. My Day aims to address this, where at the end of the day they simply drop off and you have a clear list. And then tomorrow you could go through and you could figure out what goes on my day view. And what's nice is just like I went into this list and I clicked on this task and I added it to my day, you could go into any task and add it to my day. And in fact, what I could even do is I could even click on this task and just drag and drop it over in my day as one way of adding it there. So this way, every day you get, in a sense, a clean slate. Some of the other things that I could do when I'm clicked into this task, I could also indicate when I want a reminder. So I could say, hey, remind me about this tomorrow, maybe at 9 a.m. on Tuesday. I could add a due date. So if I really want to force myself to, make sure that I'm really getting this item done, maybe I'll say, hey, let's say maybe tomorrow I should land on what my channel is about. And here too, as I select a date here, you'll also see that it added it within this view over here in planned. And here I see the due date appearing on here. So as I go through each one of these tasks, whether it's marking it as important, whether it's adding it to my day, whether it's setting a due date on this, you'll notice in each one of these cases, it's adding it to one of these categories. The way to think of this is as I set different settings on this side, in a sense, it's tagging an item, and then these are the different filtered views for those different tags that I assign to an item. Some of the other things that I could do on here is I could repeat tasks. So let's say, I don't know, maybe you have an item, household chores, and one of them is take out the trash and you do that weekly. You could set it to recur or repeat, and so that way you'll get a reminder every single week and you have to check it off. As I go down to, you could also choose a category. You have different colors that you could assign to a task, and these different colors could mean different things. Maybe red is urgent, maybe green is a family item. However you want to organize, you could use these categories how you see fit. I could also attach an item if I want to do this. This opens up the Windows file picker or whatever operating system you're on. It pulls up the file picker. And then I could also add in a note here, so I could add some additional context. Now, if I go back to the main task view here, what I can also do is I can right click on an item, and this brings up a context menu here. And within here, you'll notice that many of these different controls that I have are very similar to the pane on the right. Here I could add to the my day, I could set importance, I could set the due date, but I do have some additional controls down here that I don't get in the right-hand pane. What I could do is I could create a new list from this task. So let's say I started adding things and maybe it doesn't really fit in start an amazing YouTube channel, and so I could just create a new list. I could also move tasks around to different lists, or I could copy the task to a different list. So lots of task management controls when you right click on a task. Now that I've added my tasks in here and I've added a few different filters to the item, what I can do now is, well, how do I prioritize my tasks that I see in this view? Well, a really easy way to prioritize my tasks is I could simply click on an item and I could drag it in my list. So I could pull this down and maybe I pull the light up. And so I can move things around the list as I see fit. What I can also do is another way to organize this list. Not only can I drag and drop, but what I could do is I could go up to this sort drop down, and here I could sort by importance. So there my most important items will show up at the top. I could sort by the due date. I could sort by any tasks that have been added to my day, sort alphabetically, and also by the creation date. So I have lots of different ways to sort. And then here you could adjust the order in the order that it sorts these items. So I could have importance at the top or importance at the bottom. And if I want to get rid of the different sort, I could go ahead and click on this X, and that'll remove the sorting again. This list here, this is all focused on equipment, getting my channel started, but let's say that I want a different list to keep track of all of my video ideas. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add another list now, and this one is going to be called Video Ideas, and I'm going to type in the list name and I'm going to hit enter. So now I have two different lists. One of the nice things that Microsoft To Do allows you to do is you can also group together lists. So here I'm going to create a group, and maybe I'm going to call this simply YouTube. So all of my YouTube content, I want to put all of my YouTube related lists within this group. And so what I could do is I could pull the video ideas list into this group, and I could also pull the original list into here as well that we just looked at. And so now I have a group with separate lists under that group. And so this is a nice way just to organize all the different lists you have. So maybe, in this case, I might have my YouTube group, and then maybe I have a personal group where I have things like grocery shopping or household chores. So you could organize it in whatever way you like to. Now that I have my list created, one of the very powerful features of Microsoft To Do is that you can share lists with others. So with my one list here, start an amazing YouTube channel. Let's say that I wanted to collaborate on this with someone else. What I could do is I could click on the list and I could right click on it, and then I could share the list from here. What I can also do is up here in the top right hand corner, I also have the option to share the list from here. I'll go ahead and let's click on this, and what I can do is I could create an invitation link. So with this invitation link, anyone will be able to join and then also edit this list. Now imagine that you and your wife or you and your husband, let's say that you want to have a shared list, maybe household chores, and you could assign a bunch of tasks to your husband. I kid you not, this is what my wife does to me. And so what you could do is let's create an invitation link, and what I could do then is I could invite someone via email, or I could simply copy this link and I could message it to someone. I could use WhatsApp or I could use text message, and I could send this link to someone and then they can work with me on this list. So I'm going to go ahead, let me copy the link here, and I can now send that to someone from my clipboard. So this is now a shared list, and you'll see this icon appears here indicating that it is a shared list. One of the things I could do now is if I click on one of the tasks, let's say with the microphone, I don't really know what microphone to get. If I click on the task microphone, now I'll see all the same details that we saw before, but I see an additional category now called Assign To. If I click on Assign To, what I could do is anyone who has gotten access to this task list, I could assign the task to them. In this case, I haven't invited anyone else yet or no one else has joined, but I could go ahead and assign it to myself. And you'll see that my initials show up now, indicating that this is my task. If I had someone else invited to this task list, I would see their initials show up to whatever tasks that they own. So in a sense, not only can I track my own tasks very easily, it also allows me to track team type tasks. Now what I see is now that I've assigned a task to myself, once again, I'm going to go over to the left hand side and I see this assigned to you category. If I click on that, I could see a list of all of the different tasks across all of my different lists that are assigned to me. So another nice way to tag tasks and then to filter those by different categories. Now, I've shown you how to create tasks within lists, how to create lists, and we've also looked at how different items show up within these views, but I'm not just limited to items showing up in these views by tagging it. What I can also do is I could simply type in an idea directly in here. So I could click on add a task. I'm going to go ahead, type in the task, hit enter, and now this shows up in my important view, but it doesn't show up on any of the lists. And let's say I typed it in, I know this is important, so I typed it in here. What I could do is I'm going to right click on this, and now I can move the task and I'll put it in my video ideas list. So how to use Microsoft To Do, let me throw that in as a video idea. So I could also go ahead and create a task and say my day, important or planned. I could create a task here first, and then I could assign it to a list. So you could either create a task in a list first, or you could create the task first and then assign it to a list, or heck, you don't even have to assign it to a list. However you want to work, To Do has a lot of flexibility. Now I'm going to jump into my Start an Amazing YouTube channel list here, and one of the things I want to do is I've been very productive since we started chatting. I like to multitask, so while I've been giving you this tutorial of To Do, I've also been getting some things done. I did some research around microphones, I ordered a microphone, I did some research on cameras, and I bought a camera. So let me check that off. Once again, there's that satisfying bell that you hear that lets you know that you completed some tasks, and they now show up in a completed view. I could also go ahead and minimize that list, or I could expand the list, so I could decide whether I want to see everything here or only things that still need to be done. Now let's say I go back to my day view and I'm here and maybe I have a lot of tasks on my list, and I remember that I had one around getting a light. So let me go ahead and here I could click on search and let me type in light, and there search is very powerful where it simply looks across all of your different tasks, and here it surfaces this task right here, and then I could jump into that task very quickly using search. Aside from me just going ahead and adding tasks in here and searching for tasks that I created, Especially at my job at Microsoft, one of the biggest sources of tasks for me is email. You get an email, someone asks you to do something, you could read the email and then just manually type in a task into to do. Or what you could do is I could click into Outlook. So I have my Outlook inbox open, and here's an email I got from the Windows Insider program. So maybe I want to go ahead and read this email. And so that's a follow-up for me where I want to read about this. So when I hover over the message in Outlook, what you'll see here is I have these different icons. I could delete, I can mark as read, or here I could flag this message. And if I go back to Microsoft To Do now, one of the things that you'll see is that flagged message will show up in my flagged email category. Here you see the email message shows up in here. So I tagged it in Outlook and now it's showing up on my list. So this is another place that I could keep track of what I need to get done. So I have the ability both to create my own tasks and also to flag emails as tasks. And emails tend to be one of the biggest sources of tasks that you need to get done. And here too, even with this task, what I could do is I could right click on it and I could add it to my day if this is something that I want to follow up on today. Now we've gone through most of the core functionality in Microsoft To Do, but I want to finish off with one additional thing, and I'm going to go over here up on the top right hand up here on the header, and I'm going to click on the settings gear, and this opens up a pane with a whole bunch of different settings. And now there are two interesting settings that I want to call out. So you have all sorts of things where you could set whether it plays a sound, whether you have to confirm before deleting, but the interesting ones is you could turn on additional views. Here if I turn on all, I also get an all list over here that shows me all of my tasks across all of my categories, and I also have the ability to view a completed list. So here this adds an additional view here. So let's say you're at work and maybe your boss is asking you, hey, what have you done recently? Turn on that completed view and you get a quick view of everything you've accomplished and gotten done. All right, well that was a quick tutorial of how you can use Microsoft To Do to be more efficient and productive. If you found this video helpful and you think you are now a task master, give this video a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like this in the future, hit that subscribe button. That way you'll get a notification anytime new content like this comes out. And lastly, if you want to see me cover any other topics in the future, feel free to leave a comment down below. I read them all and I'll add it to my list of videos to create. This is actually one of my biggest sources of video ideas. I've gotten lots of suggestions before and then I've created videos based on those suggestions. All right, well that's all I had for you today. I hope you enjoyed and I hope to see you next time. Bye.